This guy's been on the cover of Vanity Fair. He's been on the cover of Vogue. He's been on the cover of Forbes. He's doing photo shoots. He did a 3-hour podcast with Lex Friedman. He asked and was declined a spot to go to the Oscars a couple of years ago. And so this is making a mockery.
Damn.
It's just making him put on a suit.
See,
you know?
this is why people got to be careful about messing with you, because I was getting ready to disagree with you until you threw out those last things. I didn't know he tried to go to the Oscars. I didn't know he tried to be on the cover of Vogue. I didn't know that stuff, Candace. I honestly didn't know. Okay, that does change it a little bit.
And he is a literal actor, by the way. You know.
What else you don't know, Stephen A? I think there's a lot of things you don't know. Not trying to be disrespectful or nothing, but like, there's a reason why we're conservative. This video is brought to you by Allegiance Gold, brought to you by Allegiance Gold. We're all excited about Trump coming back into office. Finally, some real leadership. But here's the question. Will he be free to lead? The Fed, the global elites, the system, they've already shown that they'll do anything to maintain control. And with wars breaking out across the world and our market hanging on by a thread, we got to ask the question of ourselves, what's next? Will the market crash? Will they try to sabotage him again? We can't predict the future, but we can prepare for it. That's why I'm telling you to keep buying gold. Gold isn't tied to the stock market, the Fed, or politicians. It's real, it's stable, and it's the one thing that have held its value through every crisis. That's why I'm partnering up with my friends at Allegiance Gold to help you protect your wealth by diversifying with gold and silver, step by step, with no stress, just peace of mind. Go to protectwithtatum.com and they'll give you up to $5,000 in free physical gold or silver to get you started. Plus, no setup fees if you choose a gold-backed IRA. Don't wait. The world is shaky, but your savings don't have to be. Go to protectwithtatum.com right now. That's protectwithtatum.com. We'll put the link in the description section as well. Another interview that I thought was incredibly impactful that occurred was Candace Owens and Stephen A. Smith. Let me just say this. I mean this with my whole chest. I honestly believe that Democrats are more afraid of black conservative men than they are black women. Candace Owens is the last person you want to argue with, to be quite honest. But if you notice, they hardly ever interview black men who are conservative. They hardly ever interview them. They try to put women out there, but they don't want to put men out there, which for whatever reason, I don't know why. Even though Candace Owens is probably one of the most prominent conservatives to ever live on social media, I think she's even bigger of a brand than Charlie Kirk is. But why don't Stephen A. Smith talk to black conservative men? Have he? I haven't seen him talk to any black conservative man on the show or interview any black conservative man. He won't interview. I kind of think that Stephen A. Smith he wouldn't want to interview me. He said he liked what I had to say or whatever the case may be, he mentioned me, but I don't know if he really want to interview me because Candace and I have a different background. Like, Candace didn't grow up in the South. Candace didn't get jumped in a gang. Like, I know the lingo. I'm the black person whisperer. You know what I'm saying? You can't pass none of that black community, all that stuff over on me. It ain't gonna work. But anyway, shout out to Candace Owens and shout out to Stephen A. for even talking to her, because some people would be too afraid to talk to conservatives anyway. So let's roll that clip with Candace Owens and Stephen A. Smith. Just a real quick recap. And this is a pretty long video. It's about 10 minutes. So we're going to go through it, and if it get a little too long and cumbersome, I'll go on and let you guys watch his show later. But roll the clip.
Let's get right to it, Candace. First things first. You know, when you saw the election results take fold and you saw Donald Trump win the election, popular vote, electoral college vote, et cetera, what were the thoughts that ran through your mind when you saw the results transpiring?
You know, I think that the first thing I thought was that old school expression, it's the economy, stupid. Mm-hmm. You know, we've done a lot and everyone's screaming at each other all the time. There's been all these social movements and he versus her and black versus white. But at the end of the day, people just weren't living well under the Biden regime. I call it a regime, but it gets down to how was I living? What were the gas prices? How expensive are groceries? Are you willing to try something different? And I think genuinely, there's a fatigue that is setting in, that has set in, that was beginning to sort of percolate of people that are just exhausted with being angry. Do you know what I mean? Like the media constantly selling, this guy's this guy's that, she's this, she's that. I think we're all just tired, and that's kind of a good thing.
Do you believe that Donald Trump won the election, or that the progressive left and their thought process, their policy, some of the things that they were spewing, it was more a product of them losing? That's what I've been saying. It wasn't about him winning. It was about America saying, nah, he's closer to normal than what the hell we're hearing over here. We don't like this. And that's what transpired. What do you think it was?
You are completely on the money with that. It was really more that the left lost. And it was a weird, it was very strange to watch Kamala run. I will say that, because she really only ran for 100 days, right? Trump had been running throughout four years, basically, kind of upset about the loss in 2020. And she kind of just comes in, and it's almost like a coronation, which I think was disrespectful to the left-leaning voter base. Like, it was just, well, he has kind of said he's knighted me, and therefore I am the person that you should be electing. And she didn't really work for it, and rather was, I think, quite accusatory. If you don't elect her, it's because you have an issue with women. I don't think Obama's speech to the brothers, the quote unquote brothers, helped him any. He's been gone. He's in Martha's Vineyard, living in a house, God knows how much it costs, not something I could afford. And then he kind of reappears to sort of lecture the brothers about their responsibility. And I just don't think it sat well this time around. Just a different time, a different audience, and people kind of realizing, hey, that's not really enough. Paint me a vision. Like, tell me what you're actually going to do for me. Don't tell me that it's just simply my responsibility to give this woman votes because she's a woman.
You know, I want to transition to Trump, back to Trump in this regard. We just saw it, that world just saw. It wasn't a press conference or anything like that. I don't call it that. Him with Ukrainian President Zelensky and how he went at him and what have you. But what about Trump and Vance and how they conducted themselves? You and I might disagree on this particular issue, because I don't disagree with what you're saying in terms of, I was on the record saying, listen, you're coming with your hand out. You need money. You might not want to be confrontational. You might want to be a bit more diplomatic, Zelensky, because you're the one that's in need. And Trump wasn't wrong when he said, or you don't have any of the cards. You don't have any of the cards. The flip side to it, however, is that the press conference, you're in the Oval Office. We know this is the White House. This isn't some place in Ukraine. And he's got broken English, and you got the vice president interrupting him. You got them, I thought, somewhat bullying him to some degree. I just didn't think it was necessary. It was a good look. That's where I'm coming from. Am I wrong in feeling that way?
No, I think you're perfectly, I mean, these are your feelings. They're valid, right? If that's how you felt. For me, I felt it was refreshing. I'm so tired of politics. I know they always button it up for us. They're constantly telling us, oh, this, and saying things that sound good but don't actually result in good things. And I think it was sort of the frustration of how much he has taken from America to not come with some respect. And I likened it to, even when you go to your granddad's house and it's your birthday, your mom kind of makes you wear something special. You know he's going to give you a card and slip some cash in there, $100. Granddad's always good for that. And you just come with some decorum and some respect. This dude has been wearing military fatigues for like 5 years now, okay? Put on a suit. As soon as he gets out of the car, Trump's like, well, he's dressed up. This should let you know, this should signal to the public that what he's doing is an act. Why? Give me a scenario, a reason why he can't put on a suit. Even if you're in the midst of a war, why can't you put on a suit when you're coming to ask for money? Well, because he wants people to see him as a guy that's downtrodden in the trenches. And he's not that. This guy's been on the cover of Vanity Fair. He's been on the cover of Vogue. He's been on the cover of Forbes. He's doing photo shoots. He did a 3-hour podcast with Lex Friedman. He asked and was declined a spot to go to the Oscars a couple of years ago. And so this is making a mockery.
Damn.
It's just making him put on a suit.
See,
you know?
this is why people got to be careful about messing with you, because I was getting ready to disagree with you until you threw out those last things. I didn't know he tried to go to the Oscars. I didn't know he tried to be on the cover of Vogue. I didn't know that stuff, Candace. I honestly didn't know. What's it like being a black conservative?
What else you don't know, Stephen A? I think there's a lot of things you don't know. Not trying to be disrespectful or nothing, but like, there's a reason why we're conservative. It's not because we coon, bootlicking Uncle Tom's, we chucking for the white man. It's because when you do the research and you know the things that we know and you see the things that we see, you cover the media the way we cover it and not trying to, capitulate to left-wing theology with Trump derangement syndrome, then you see it's all fluff. This dude is the most disrespectful person to ever come to our country, begging for money in an endless war. He doesn't want peace. He could say, I want peace. I want a ceasefire. but can I at least get a little bit of coin so we can get to a ceasefire position? This fool come in there like nothing is going. You wait until you have a conflict. Well, now you finna get kicked up out of here. You don't know we gonna have a conflict at our ocean, and then, Trump had to put the smack down. Roll the clip.
It is in America. Nobody better ask this question than you.
Honestly, it's a hell of a lot easier than it was when I first got into this back in 2015, because that was the first time they saw Trump, and people just could not see past how could this possibly happen. And I think the media had a stronger hold on people's minds then than it does now. Now we've seen the explosion of independent media. People are able to get their voices out outside of the New York Times and CNN and Fox News, and that's helped tremendously to defeat all of these media caricatures that are being created. But I find it now, it's pioneering, to put it in a nice way. And I think it's the most rewarding thing ever when what I have found is that if you just stand for truth, even in the beginning when it's really hard and people say terrible things about you, and I've been called everything you could possibly imagine, then there's that moment, even if it takes years, where they do come back and they say you were right, particularly about BLM. I mean, I was hitting the drum about the finances so early, and I'm going, I'm not saying that you don't have feelings about this thing, but I am telling you something else is going on, and this is going to harm the Black community in the end. This money is just going to be zapped out of communities, and communities are going to be destroyed. And then when that was proven right, it was so refreshing to hear people say, yeah, we kind of hated her for a really long time. We're kind of saying this for a really long time. And then, the fraud of Patrisse Cullors and what they were doing with the money. And so my brain just works differently. I am different, and I'm happy being different. I don't want to be the same. But I also do respect, I think I've learned in the process as well, is to just respect where people are at. My sisters did not like where I was at when I started speaking in the way that I was speaking.
How many sisters do you have?
I have two sisters, and they're my best friends. So one is a year older, one's a year younger. So we're like a trio.
So they sandwich you. They sandwich you. They wouldn't get you. They sandwich you, huh?
Well, they just didn't really care. Right. To me, that's Candace. I've always been different, right. And they didn't know what I was on or what I was thinking. And now this last election, they voted for Trump, which is crazy. That means they were fully on the left. And they just sort of saw it. And so it's just been cool to see that. And they now like my podcast. Before they didn't even listen to it. But we always had, I grew up obviously not obviously, but my family has a great sense of humor. And that was one of the worst things I hated about BLM, is that I've always thought that Black people culturally, we're the funniest. We're the funniest. You always want to go listen to Chris Rock, Chris Tucker. And you saw that removal where everything was just taken so seriously. We're so easily offended. And I hated that. I thought the best parts of what the Black culture represented to me growing up was removed. And for me, my sisters, they never cared. I'd be like, can you watch my cat? I have to go to a Trump thing. And my sister would be like, oh, are you going to another one of your Klansman rallies? Yeah, I'll watch your cat. It was always a joke.
I'm wondering, because of your knowledge of politics, your obvious knowledge of the issues, when you speak on these things and you take positions you take such positions, particularly if it's antithetical or the antithesis of what the Black community will point to, do you think about it and do so on purpose because, dare I say, you're disgusted with us as a community for being hoodwinked by the Democratic Party in your eyes? Is that possible?
So that's a very good question. And disgusted would not be the right term for it. Frustrated, yes, and constantly trying to give people the facts so that they understand that Lyndon Baines Johnson was an avowed racist and he hated us, and yet we are doing everything that he wanted us to do. We are reacting emotionally and not rationally. We seem to be a stereotype of irrationality, actually. All we have to do is make them feel something and they won't react. And I want to be clear, it's not just Black Americans. The Me Too movement was another manifestation of that. That's why I'm doing this Harvey Weinstein series. But what really does upset me about the Black community is that the manner in which we defend criminals, you will not find this in any other community, okay? So white person gets shot, killed, unarmed. They're not coming out. White people are not coming out and burning down their own neighborhoods, right? They're going to be
Did you see the Black community attack me for going off about OJ being celebrated? Did you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, they've conditioned us to actually defend the worst in our communities. They just will let it go. You think Chinese people are going to run outside if they're like, well, listen, this guy was high on fentanyl. He got into a brush up with police officers and he died. Chinese people will be like, especially Asian moms are just dead serious. They'd be like, "You idiot," good for you. So you're an embarrassment. Never come home. This is how Asian women are. They have a standard. You think Jewish people are coming outside and gonna, rally around a Jew? No. They all know that they think of that as like a natural process. We don't want to associate with that. And we have the exact opposite mindset. And when I say the exact opposite, I mean also the reverse of that being that the most educated and the most accomplished people in our community, in terms of their intellect, we reject. How can we ever get ahead, right? Oh, Condoleezza Rice. No, she's a traitor. She's an Uncle Tom. Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice, he's a traitor. He's an Uncle Tom. But Dr. Ben Carson, a literal brain surgeon. Black people will call him stupid. It's crazy. So there's no way Black America can get ahead with that backwards mindset where you put George Floyd on a T-shirt and you denigrate and disrespect someone like Clarence Thomas. I'm just not with it.
So, yeah, I thought it was a really good interview. I think Candace Owens is obviously a tremendous young lady. Obviously, I know her, been knowing her, but she was real pure Black. We both kind of started out together. And
the primary reason I wanted her on this show was because I was curious as to how she felt as a Black conservative, particularly as it pertained to Black people, because of the vitriol that I've seen aimed in her direction. Are there times where I feel that she's a bit abrasive? Absolutely. Are there times that I feel she's that way unnecessarily? So, yeah. Even she acknowledged she just don't have time. She's a mother of 3, expecting a 4th kid, preoccupied with a lot of things that occupy ourselves in life. And she don't have patience and tolerance for nonsense and games. That's how she feels. Everybody has their feelings. We have a right to disagree. And again, when we have a lengthier discussion, I will most certainly be a bit more probing and challenging. This wasn't the time for that. My first time meeting her, my first time talking to her, I wanted to hear what she had to say. And I wanted to hear the perspective that she provided to the masses out there and how unapologetic she is in doing so. I got that and I appreciate it, because here's what I want everybody to understand. And I want us to understand that we'll never get far until we learn to do this. No matter what our emotional state of mind is, no matter how turned off we might be over the things that people say and the manner in which they say it. Yes, it's true. Every truth ain't meant to be heard. Yes, it's true. Sometimes it is about the way you say something instead of what you're just saying. But far more often than not, the truth is supposed to usurp everything. And when that young lady speaks, don't even think about challenging her intelligence. Don't even think about challenging her ability to articulate her point of view. You better know what the hell you're talking about when you come at her. That's what I take away, just as much as anything else. I can't wait until she and I sit face to face one day and volley back and forth about what we feel, what we believe, what we stand for, and why. Because I'm certainly different than her when it comes to some political positions she has taken and beyond. There is no doubt about that. But I can't deny she's sharp as a tack. And you damn well better be if you're gonna come for her. Because ladies and gentlemen, like it or not, Candace Owens, she's not going anywhere. Even when you thought she was gone, she's around. Number 8 on Spotify's list of podcasts and climbing. And she's in her 30s. She's not going away. No matter what some of you want, she's not going away. Deal with that. If not, I get the impression she will make you.
You know, I think that it's good for people to start having these conversations across the aisle with people like Candace and I, because the black community, I think, is waiting for permission to wake up, and when enough is enough, maybe people will start changing. Because it is true that white people would never have a George Floyd, because they had a Tony Temper. Tony Temper was murdered by police. He called for help. He wasn't high on fentanyl. They literally suffocated him and mocked him and made fun of him and laughed at him while he was dying, which I think that Tony Temper's case was a lot more egregious looking than George Floyd. But yeah, we didn't burn down our own communities. We ain't burning down white people's community. We burn our own communities down. Got T-shirts with his name on it, and then a young girl get killed in a BLM shootout, and we don't even raise money for her. We don't even give her any time of day. The little kid at the joint Congress, DJ Daniels, or Daniel, that young man, exemplification of courage, exemplification of a real good story of how God can overcome. He beat cancer. He was honorary, was an honorary police officer. Now he's an honorary Secret Service member. I mean, every young black kid should be inspired by that story. Not just black, but I'm saying especially black. But what do? We mock them, they twerking on them and all kind of stuff. They didn't even stand up and give them a clap. At least the black people in Congress on the Democrat side should have stood up and clapped for the only black guy. Or all the dumb women that wearing pink in solidarity could have at least stood up and clapped for the young lady who lost her kid, Laken Riley, or the young girl that was killed, the 12-year-old. They could at least stand up and support them women, but they don't, because it's hot where they going. I just want y'all to know that, in case you didn't know.